New from Legion Wargames. This is All Our Brothers, the Battle of Solferino, 1859, game by Brian Armour, from the Second Italian War of Independence, which is something I know literally nothing about. However, the reason I picked up this game is because it is in the Blind Swords system. Same as you would expect from Revolution Games Blind Swords, or from At Any Cost Metz, which is the game about the Franco-Prussian War of 1870. And this is going to be kind of an offshoot of Blind Swords, which is a system I very much enjoy. And secondly, I also enjoy games about stuff I don't know anything about because I end up learning a lot. Let's just take an appreciation for this cover here. What an excellent cover. This is I believe it is the French and Piedmontese versus the Austrians in this war. And this battle is famous for being the battle. First of all, it was the largest battle in Europe, I believe, since Leipzig during the Napoleonic Wars, and just was a complete atrocity of casualties. Just so many dead and wounded in this battle. In fact, it was the battle that created the International Red Cross as an organization, and also led to the First Geneva Convention. So it's fairly pivotal in the sense of like how warfare is horrible and the consequences of that. And so yeah, let's take a look inside the box. Great cover, like I said. Legion Wargames typically does really good production. We got some baggies. We got 2 dice, a red and a blue, and a D10, which is interesting. I wonder if this is going to be closer to At Any Cost Metz than it is the Civil War games. But obviously this takes place before the U.S. Civil War. So here's a little bit of the history. On the morning of June 24th, 1859, the Allied armies of France and Piedmont Sardinia ran headlong into 2 Austrian armies camped on the plains of northern Italy. With only a vague understanding where their adversaries lay, both high commands intended to march forward to the attack. 250,000 men in the battle, largest engagement since the Battle of Leipzig, and 40,000 dead or wounded at the end. And it was the Austrian armies who were defeated decisively. So this is going to be an interesting game to learn the history around. 500-meter hexes and brigade-size units. And this is a really nice rule book from Legion. Look at all the color here. I really like the layout and the color. Looks like they're stepping up their production game a little bit. There's these units here. There's HQ units, which is kind of interesting. Detachments. Here's a look at some of the strength points and status of the units. Reminds me a lot of At Any Cost Metz, I'm not going to lie. Events and activation shits. So if you've played Blind Swords, you know that there's going to be kind of a planning phase where you choose the events that you want to add to the cup based on some different criteria. Or you're going to put some number in and keep some number out. Then you draw chits and you go through a turn sequence. So HQ command, that's kind of new. Fire combat, movement, assault, rally. Got some CIC chits. Those typically you get to activate whatever formation you want. In this game, it's going to be Emperor Franz Joseph of Austria. And the allied player has Napoleon III and the Sardinian king Vittorio Emanuele II. They have very 1850s mustaches, those guys. So this is looking like it's going to come in. Some examples, some nice diagrams and examples. HQ units and fire combat. There's a little bit different stuff going on here than you might be used to in Blind Swords. HQ overrun, assault declaration, opportunity fire, assault rules. There's core morale. So obviously it's a formation-based system. Here is a designer's notes, some special rules and optional rules like commander-in-chief casualties that cause you to just straight lose the game if they die. Variable thunderstorm, and then this plotted orders thing, which sounds kind of interesting. Interesting. So you can change the orientation of your HQ there. Here's a bibliography, further reading. Looks like a very significant bibliography to do this game. That's kind of cool. Here is the scenario booklet. So this is going to include the final assault, which is a learning scenario. It's like 1 turn with a cup full of a few chits. San Martino. This is turns 2 through 14. So this looks like it might be the full thing. What chits are available where, morale, special rules. I do like that the scenarios are color-coded here. The heights of Solferino. Okay, so this is 2 through 14. This is the whole thing. This is turns 1 through 14. Unless there are more than 14 turns, in which case... Campo di Medole. Be interested to see what the differences in these scenarios are, if any of them are alt history. I haven't looked too carefully through this. Here's another one, All Our Brothers. Maybe this is the actual full scenario. Maybe some of these only use part of a map. So yeah, All Our Brothers, this is what the game is called. I imagine that this is the full scenario here. Some historical notes on the leaders, on the units. It's nice to see. I really like the use of period artwork throughout these booklets. And here are your event chits and what they do. And there's some asymmetries between the two sides. Looks like white for Austrian, maybe green for Piedmontese, and blue for French. Here we have the counter sheets. This is classic Legion stuff, 5/8" counters. Not too big, not too small, very clear. Their graphic design tends to be quite playable, I would say. You can see the color bar for the formation, the 1st Corps, the 5th Corps of the Austrians. I assume these are Austrians. The 11th Corps. Control markers, cavalry, some other formations there. These look really nice. We've got the French. Got the Piedmontese in green, maybe these are, yeah, Piedmontese. Looks like I've got the Italian flag. That's interesting. I know this battle is part of the Italian unification, War of Italian Unification, so we got that. We've got 2 counter sheets. We got the map. We'll look at that in a moment. We got some setup charts. So let's take a look at what else is in here. The French and Sardinian setup chart. This is a large 11/17 vertical oriented. Is it double-sided? No, it is one-sided. So these are all of the units, including what scenario you're playing based on the color and what hex they go in. This is a really nice way to do a setup chart. I really like this. Put all the units on this, and depending on the scenario you're playing, stick them on the map. So that is the French and Sardinians. Here's the Austrians. It's probably going to look very similar. Nicely done, nicely done. This is a good way to do a setup organization, which is good. That's the Austrians. Here we have got the terrain effects chart with an illustrated example, which is great. Sometimes terrain effects charts that are just text, you don't know exactly what terrain it's referring to. So it points to all the different types of terrain, the movement point cost for those, what it looks like HQ postures can be, failed activation, out of command. Like most Legion war games, these are one-sided, so that's nice. Probably have that on the table. Here's the assault combat table. So this is going to be based on, it looks like strength point differential, and then a die roll. Maybe it looks like a 2d6 system, yep. Column shifts, combat results. That's the assaults table. This is the fire combat table. Looks like, again, 2d6, strength points firing. Column shifts for various conditions. I'm excited to play this. Here is what looks like a roller coaster, but is actually the game turn and core morale track. So here's the victory point track, goes around and around. Here is the, it looks like the morale is for these formations are by number. I believe it looks like, yep. I'd have to look more and see exactly how this works, but it's an interesting shaped turn track. So yeah, 14 turns in the game and the morale of the cores. Here's a force display. Oh, that's interesting. Top of the stack. Maybe there's like a hidden unit aspect to this because there are force markers. And so you're only allowed to see what's on top of a stack. That could be quite interesting. So you'd stack up the units here in each stack and use your force markers. One for the Austrians as well. Fascinating. That's new. That's different for blind swords. And here's another event chit chart for the other player. All right, let's take a look at the map. All right, it is a vertically oriented map, so I can't quite get it all into frame, but it is quite nice. Here we see some of the terrain. I really like the pattern of what looks like hedgerows or farms here. This looks like a canal of some kind. You've got the roads, the towns, these potentially being victory point or setup hexes. Maybe victory point hexes. There's some more up here around the town of Solferino and Medole. Or it could represent like urban or village terrain with this border here, because you can see there's some stuff. Casanova, if I can get that to focus. This is a really good big step up from Legion's normal graphic design. I really like this map. It is functional, it is simple, but it is pretty to look at. And it goes all the way up here. There's a small lake at the top. There's a river or stream that comes across here and breaks into a couple different spots. So this is going to be played in a vertical orientation. I'm curious to see how what the unit density is like on this. This is a full-size map, and I think Legion has done a great job with the the artwork here. Even the trees look really nice. So this is a really big step up for Legion Wargames. Congratulations to them and designer Brian Armour for getting All Our Brothers, a new title covering a conflict that we almost see next to nothing on, and using the Blind Sword system. You can bet I will be playing this sometime soon, and we'll report back.